Hello, and welcome to Chapter 2 of InnoBuzz's online marketing course. Today we're going to be looking at search engine optimization, SEO. So we're going to look at a whole bunch of things: keyword research and analysis, on-page optimization, off-page optimization, a little bit about black hat SEO and penalties that happens when you do bad things, something called latent semantic indexing, the Google sandbox effect, and finally I'm just going to share a bunch of useful SEO tools with you. And while we're going through all this, we're going to be doing a bunch of examples and looking at these tools as we go. Should be quite good. So in the introduction, we talked about how SEO is an essential traffic strategy, and it really is. It simply is just free traffic. And it's astounding how once you get your SEO done, just for literally forever, traffic just keeps coming. That's more sales for you, it's more viewers for you. In the end, it really is of critical importance, but the SEO field is a little bit confusing at times, and that's because people talk, and Google doesn't actually, Google being the major search engine, the one that we're going to really focus on since they control so much of the world of search, they don't really release like a guideline of what exactly their algorithm, their ranking algorithm is. They give little hints every now and then, and other people figure it out. But a lot of it happens either from testing, or then people get this idea in their head, like we're going to talk about latent semantic indexing later on, which is just the way words connect with each other. And people will start throwing around theories and ideas, and there'll be correlation but not causation in the rankings, and there gets to be this huge big kerfuffle of what actually works and what actually doesn't. So what I've done throughout this course here is I've really looked through the actual data, the actual reports, and I've brought up the things that actually will generate returns, because nothing is worse than, putting time and effort and money into something and just having it not work. That's not great business strategy. So just in case, SEO is particularly important for e-commerce and content-based websites, and that's absolutely true. The more people coming to your store, the more people reading your content, the more money you make. So the keywords are the basis of SEO. Knowing what keywords people search for is really the most important thing, and that's just simply because people search for different things. And I've got this example here: cat playing with a string or cat string. Which one should you use if you wanted to target those keywords? Because you can't target an infinite amount. You do need to make decisions on your website about what exact ones. And just for the purpose of this course, keywords and key phrases are just interchangeable. So keywords is going to be the terminology I primarily use. So we'd call cat playing with a string would be a keyword, as would cat, just for the sake of this course, just for simplicity. So cat playing with a string or cat string. Should you use both, neither, or one or the other? And how would you find out? Well, you'd want to use Google's keyword tool. I've actually got it all brought up right over here. So here we go. The way you get to this tool, the easiest way is with an AdWords account. And you would just simply log in and head on over to Tools and Analysis, drop it down, and choose Keyword Tool. So I've actually entered those two terms in: cat playing with string and cat string. And we see over here, these are our two results. So cat playing with string, 170 global monthly searches. Cat string, 18,100 global monthly searches. So if you were a company and your website wanted to target one of these two, you would really want to target cat string in all likelihood. And there's a little bit more that goes into it. Like, you can't just sit here and say for sure you want to target cat string, because the next step then is to head on over to Google and see how much competition there is. And we know it's low here, which is a great sign, but you would always want to check the indexing, go to the websites, perform a little competitor analysis before really deciding which one to target. That can be quite important. But there's also shortcuts you can take, knowing that this has low competition, knowing this has so many more, and knowing that your site would be equally good with either one of the two. Choose cat string. It's as easy as that. So really, this simple keyword analysis should be done for all keywords that you would want to use on your website. And this is true even if you have a blog. For instance, we're going to discuss the importance of titles in SEO in just a little bit of time. If you could name your blog two completely different things, or if you had a topic written, rather, and you can phrase it in two completely different ways, but one way generates 170 search results, and then another one is 18,000. You should take the time to figure out which one has the 18,000. It will actually make a big difference. If you look at an average blog having 100 or hundreds of posts, you can see, well, that is a giant difference in the amount of traffic that's going to come through when all of that is together. So definitely make sure that you always do perform keyword analysis. It is critical. So there's two parts of SEO. There's something called on-page optimization and then off-page optimization. On-page optimization is what occurs on your actual website. It's making SEO optimized decisions on your web page. As a webmaster and marketer, you really need to focus on this because it's hard. With off-page, there's a lot of variance to that. Things are not in your control, but on-page, you have supreme control over it. And given that full implementation of on-page techniques most often takes just a few hours, there is really no reason not to implement the upcoming techniques. It's just basics. So when we're looking through it, we've got your website, we pull it open. We want to take an initial site analysis, see how you're doing. And all you have to do is just go through the checklist. And this is just a shorter version right now. Sitemap. Does it have good structure with permalinks? Use of proper header tags, anchor text, use of meta tags. And if this doesn't mean anything now, don't worry. It's all going to mean a lot very, very soon. Let's get cracking. But first, we've got to start with competitor analysis. Just like your core business strategy in the real world, online you will also be wanting to perform competitor analysis. And the reason is that companies spend a lot of time developing good SEO. And you can actually take shortcuts by looking at what your competition is doing. So let's do a quick example here. We're going to go to this link here, seotoolset.com, grab some of their free tools, which are just absolutely fantastic. And you may remember me saying from chapter 1 that I'd recently built a website called Craigsman, which was all about the outdoors. Okay, cool. So I know that one of the biggest competitors in this page is a site called backcountry.com. It's a pretty big site. It's owned by bodybuilding.com. It's their specialty store for the outdoors market. Okay, so we're going to run page analyzer and see what happens out of this. It's going to take a second. And there we go. Here's our information. So we're going to talk about this shortly. But here are their keywords: gear, backcountry, mountain, free, shipping. Now, we know that bodybuilding.com is a massively successful company, and backcountry itself does pretty well all right, especially as a sister site. So we know that they're going to have spent a lot of time focusing in on these words and making sure they rank for them. So it would therefore be important to me to go back to my website and ensure these are the keywords I'm using myself. This is a big company. They generate a lot of traffic. Okay, this is how they're doing it. Great. I would like some of that. Hands down, absolutely the best way. I need that page. We'll come back to that in a minute. Boom. So keyword density and keyword placement. Keyword density refers to the percentage of times a keyword appears on a web page compared to the total number of words on the page. So basically what that's saying is if you're looking at putting cat string on your website, how many times does cat string appear on a given page on your site? You definitely wouldn't want it to be high. The whole idea behind keyword density is it should be low. People say that 2% is kind of the ideal target placement. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in a second. But certainly you wouldn't want 30% of the words on your webpage to be cat string. That would be ridiculous. It would be utterly unreadable. Now, that's kind of an important hint here, it being unreadable. Now, in the early days, search engine algorithms weren't as amazing as they are today, and so keyword density was actually really important. You could do something called keyword stuffing, which was just load up even the bottom of your web page with all keywords very similar, or just repeating the same ones. And what would happen is websites would look at that and be like, well, this must be important, we'll take that. But there's a problem. The problem is that algorithms don't work on you, the webmaster, or you, the marketer, having the supreme control. The supreme control is left up to the web. Search engine is really a popularity contest. And so search engines started to migrate away from that because it was a little bit too much control handed over to the marketer. Where if they were running, say, a pharmaceutical company, they could just stuff up their website with literally tons and tons of not even related words that would rank and generate traffic and convert at a certain rate. So search engines, especially Google, moved away from this. And nowadays, if you do keyword stuff, you're gonna probably get penalized for it, which just means that Google will take your rank as it currently is and drop it lower, which of course is devastating, since if you're looking at the top 3 results in Google, 82% of the traffic from that search term goes to those 3. It's absolutely critical that you rank as high as you can. So what's the best density? I said before, a lot of people say 2%. Maybe not. The whole idea behind Google's philosophy when it comes to search is that your website should read naturally for your audience. You should not write for search engines, you should write for your audience. So the best density to have is really then the one that communicates your keywords, but at the same time doesn't make your content should be easily readable, is the key. So where should you put the keywords? Basically in your content, your about pages, your FAQ page. Put it in titles, in your tagline to your website. You do have a tagline on your website, right? In your shop, if you have an e-commerce place or an e-commerce site, there are tons of options in product description, in product category descriptions. You can put keywords in loads of places, and I would highly recommend that you do. It does make a big difference. Title and meta tags are, well, they're critical. You absolutely need to start implementing them if you haven't, and you probably already have. They are by default and many just implemented in many websites. Like in WordPress, it's very easy to put them in. It automatically will write title tags in. Any good web designer or web developer should have added these in for you when they designed your website, but it's easy to check, and I'm going to show you how in just a second. So title tags and meta tags show up in the page source itself, in the code. We're going to get to that. The title tag is critically important because that's the title. And in search engines, they allow a maximum of 70 characters. Meta description shows up in Google search as well, and that allows a maximum of about 150 characters. And then there's something called a meta keyword tag, which is not as frequently used anymore, but still, you should do it. So what does all this mean? What's the relevant example? Let's look at it. Here's that site again, craigsman.com, and we've got our how-to afford a climbing gear. Okay, so if we were to go to this web page here, and we press Control-U, we would bring up our source. Fantastic, and then we get all kinds of, well, fancy-dancy code. But if we look, we see a title tag, meta description, and meta keywords. So here's our title, How to Afford Climbing Gear. Hey, there it is right there. So we took our header, we wrapped it, we took this, and then we named our web page, this specific page, How to Afford Climbing Gear. Great. And this lets Google know that this web page is all about affording climbing gear for mountain climbers. Great. That makes it really easy for them, and that's exactly the point. Meta description. Learn how to stop spending money on all those unnecessary things and buy what is really important. Okay, that text actually doesn't appear anywhere on the website. Where that appears is in the search results. Learn how to stop spending money on all those unnecessary things and buy what is really important. Okay, so from a marketing perspective, we have a huge opportunity here. We know now that meta description is used to display to people what our web page is about. So that allows us to use traditional copywriting techniques like put in a hook, generate interest. But at the same time, we also know that we have to follow Google's rules. So we want to put in a couple keywords, we want to make it readable, we want to make it nice for the average person. Something like this. And ideally, we would actually have ours a little bit longer. It would ideally take up about to here, the full 2 lines. This is a little bit too short. And if you look our title tag, How to Afford Climbing Gear, well, here it is. But we use WordPress for this website, and WordPress automatically adds that -Craigsman at the end, which is good. That works for us. Meta keywords. Climbing gear, how to afford climbing gear, dirtbag, how to be a climbing bum. That one will have to get changed at some point, although I know it is slang for climbing. But it used to be these were super important. And just like you could put keywords on your web page, you could also put keywords in meta tags, and it would work the exact same way as I explained before. But it was just a little bit too powerful for marketers, so Google and Bing and other companies have downgraded their overall importance. No big deal, but it's an important thing to be aware of. Proper site structure is important. And in fact, you probably already have it. You just want to ensure your site is well designed and easy to navigate. You want to avoid complex or illogical setups. And if you've hired a good webmaster, this really should already be taken care of. So a great example is if you have a tools part of your web page, don't have the tools in the tools and the about, and on the home page, put the tools under the tools. If you have a blog, put your blog under the blog, not under the about page. It's quite common sense. The vast majority of websites, of proper websites in the world, already have this looked after. So it's not a big deal, but it can be worth checking and migrating a couple things over if necessary. Proper URL structure is actually a really important thing. Because when you think about it, search engines are all about pointing you, or pointing people searching to links on your website. So if your URLs, your links are all messed up, that is going to greatly hurt your search results. So there's really 3 steps, or 4 steps that you want to do. You want to set something called canonical URLs, which if you look over here, we've got 4 different ones listed here: example.com, example.com / index.html, and home.asp. What you don't want to be doing is having those appear in different ways, or in different ways on your web page. So you don't want one part of your website to be pointing to the home page at example.com / and then another part at www.example.com, and then we also have index.html. That's not good. That's confusing for search engines, and it's confusing for them to know where to point people to. So you want to make sure that your canonical URLs are set. If you're using WordPress, this can be done very easily. If you're using Google Webmaster Tools, you can set that in there. There are tons of ways to do it, to tell search engines, but also you just want to make sure that you maintain consistency yourself. You want to use something called permalinks. Permalinks are just simply links that do not change. In the old days of the web, in Web 1.0, links never did change. But since we moved on to dynamic websites as opposed to static ones, where with our Web 2.0, content is continuously changing and page names are continuously changing and moving to different places, you just want to make sure that your site is using permalinks. It's worth checking with your webmaster, and if you're using WordPress, it's just an icon that you check in settings. It's actually critically important. And finally, you want to use information in your URLs. So www.example.com / 123242 isn't really that good because it doesn't convey any information to the user or to the search engine. Now, example.com / numbers are amazing, tells the user and tells the search engine what your page is about, and hey, you could even put keywords in there. In fact, it would be a great place for it. 404s and 301s. These are webmaster talk for 2 different things that can happen when a user comes to a page that doesn't exist anymore. A 404 is just an error message that displays. You've probably seen one yourself. Hey, page no longer exists. Sorry about that. A 301 is an automatic redirect to another page on the website. You've probably run into those as well. You just wouldn't know because it automatically redirects you to another URL. So you want to ensure that a good 404 page is built. And this is a great place to put in some links. Put links to your home, put links to your category archives, put links to your store. There's all kinds of good options there. Basically, you want to make your site as user-friendly as possible, just in case a page disappears or gets deleted, or you delete it and forget to put something else up. It is important to have that. 301 directs should be put in place wherever popular pages are deleted. So what does this mean? Let's say that you had a single site in your blog that was generating 100,000 hits a year from Google, and you realize that you didn't want that there anymore. For whatever reason, maybe it just factually wasn't accurate. So you didn't decide to edit it. You straight up decided to delete it. Okay? an interesting choice. But having people go to a 404 page is a sure way to get that page downgraded in the search engine results. By setting up a 301 direct, you can redirect them to your home page, or maybe you have a brand new post where you did correct it. There's a very viable option. My old one, which was generating mass traffic, was inaccurate. So I wrote a new one that fixed it, and then you would set a 301 direct to the new one. Your webmaster can set these up easily for you. And it's small things like that that are critical. You already have the search engine traffic coming in. Don't let it go to waste, and don't let yourself get penalized for having a page that used to be there no longer appear, because it's not going to be in the search results for much longer. So we talked about using title tags before. Header tags are very similar, except that they don't appear in the source. They appear in the actual text of your website. So basically it's as easy as using H1 and NH1 with your text around it. And typically all the way from H1 to H7 are the ones used, and they generally range in order of size. So header 1 is the biggest, header 7 is the smallest. So you would use these tags because CSS code knows to automatically format this text to a standardized setting. Great. And search engines use it to see what parts of the page are more important than others. So we're just going to jump back over to craigsman.com. Click on a link. So what you would want to do is you would want to wrap this in an H1 tag. Okay. And if we had a more appropriate line here than who they are, maybe We Are the Augustines is a stellar band, and if you really like outdoors, that would be great. Okay, that's a little long, but I'm just trying to make an example up on the fly. It would be a subtitle, is essentially it. Maybe you would wrap it in H3 or H4 tags, and it would just let Google know that, hey, this is just a little bit more important than some of the other stuff out there. Pretty simple overall, I think. Anchor text. Anchor text applies to both on-page and off-page SEO. Let's get this pretty again. Anchor text is the actual words in a link. So if we look at HTML, a link is written as www.example.com with this fancy stuff on either side. And then this here is what actually shows up as the link. This is what you would click. Okay? So example is the anchor text, and it is a phenomenal place to put keywords. So if you wanted to link to cat string, then you would do exactly this. You'd link to your page and then go cat string. Or actually, no, there is no more. That is exactly what you should do. It is a great way to optimize your website. And while we're speaking about links, I just kind of went off on a mental aside there because I realized, oh yeah, one of the other things that you should do is link to your web pages on your website a good amount. So if you're running a blog, it's good to actually go back and refer to a post that you wrote a few months back and just link to it, put some good anchor text in. That's great. That's good site structure, and Google actually rewards you for doing that. One option that you have for your web page is the idea of adding more content. More pages with more keywords means more traffic coming from search engines. Pretty simple. Pretty simple. So of late I've been doing consulting for a firm that opted to develop a blog and perform basic SEO to it. Now, there was really, if you look at it, there's no reason why this firm should create this blog. After all, they're a national moving firm. Why would they need to create a blog about moving? Their blog is unmonetized, it has no ads on it, it does nothing except roughly double their traffic each month. It actually is an incredibly profitable resource for them. They added content to their website. Instead of just having a standard web page, they said, oh, well, we're going to put some content in, done. And it's just paying dividends for them each and every single month. You can also improve upon your existing content. Now that you're familiar with some basic SEO techniques, such as keyword density, researching keywords, how are you using them in the first place, you know what anchor text is, the importance of header tags, you can literally go through each and every slide in this chapter here and see, oh, well, you know what? I haven't done this. I'm going to put this in. And it goes back to what I said earlier about on-page SEO. For a marketer and a web designer to sit down and go through all this, it would take them probably half a day at maximum to just go through the site, and work it all out. For most sites, some companies with super big, super complex sites will have a little bit. It'll take a little bit more time, but the average website really, it's not challenging, but it can pay off so huge. Go through the checklist. XHTML validation. Code, like regular language, is subject to breakdown over time as people get lazy. You know, our little grammatical breakdown there. And code does the exact same. So, in order to stop it, just like we create grammatical rules in English and all other languages, XHTML evolved as a way to ensure strict standards were put in place. Coding your site in XHTML is the best way to go. It's fast and it makes a difference in SEO because it is the correct way of doing it. And Google will basically take anything that they can about differentiating people. Are you creating a good website? Is your website coded properly? And they will go for it. So the place that you want to go to is validator.w3.org. This page right here. And this tool is utterly fantastic because, well, it lets us know everything that's wrong with the web page. So let's think of a popular website. How about www.gizmodo.com? And we're going to check it. It'll take a second. Now, here we go. Oh, checked his HTML5. We don't want to check his HTML5. Check his HTML5. Well, I'll show it as an example because really it's about the same thing. HTML5 is a new standard coming in, so the fact that it's checking that, nothing wrong with it at all. Nothing wrong. So we see this site, blogcatalog.com, which we're going to get to in a little bit. A whole bunch of errors. Errors, not great. But then again, basically every site on the planet will have some errors. As you get more complex, you begin to get errors in your code and things begin to get wrong. So the fact that this site has 61 errors, not a big deal. Hey, google.com prints up errors actually. So no website is perfect, and even Google, who loves this, still generates errors using this markup validation service. What you want to make sure you don't have is thousands of errors or hundreds of errors. Once you break 100, it's probably time to get a web designer on it and scale it back. Start getting them to trim it down. Whether using HTML5 or XHTML, either way you want to standardize and you want to make sure that code is written as properly as possible. You don't want shortcuts. You want it to be done right, and it does make a difference. Sitemaps. Sitemaps are code written specifically for search engines. They tell them what is on your website. I would highly recommend that you use a sitemap. It's just absolutely critical. It is literally a map for search engines. A web crawler, the bit that tells the search engine what's on your website, will come there. And one of the first things it's going to do is look for a sitemap. And if it has one, it's going to say, great, thanks for telling me what's here. And it means that you're going to get more of your URLs indexed. It means that your page is going to have more rank overall. Your webmaster can code one for you, but if you use WordPress, you can use a plugin that will automatically create one. And if you do have a sitemap, well, okay. Say you're using WordPress. You just go to plugins, you add new plugin for sitemap. I think I use Google XML sitemap generator myself. What now? Okay, so what you're going to want to do is you're going to head over to a place called Webmaster Tools, and I've already got mine open here. So this is for the site Craigsman.com. So it's brand new. It's just a few weeks old. We haven't really done much to it yet, but we hear sitemap, sitemap.xml. Okay, so you want to go to site configuration, sitemaps. Add sitemap. And then you would just put the URL in. So in this case, it's craigsman.com/sitemap.xml. And this is what it looks like to you, because this is the nice way of looking at it. And this is what it looks like to search engines. So search engine looks at that and says, yep, this is what's on that website. This is what's on Craigsman. Excellent. Now I've got it. I can start indexing more and more. Fantastic. faveicon.ico. This is one of those things that's debatable. Faveicon is a super simple thing. If we go back to our browser tab here, this is Faveicon. This is Faveicon. This is a Faveicon. This is the Facebook one. All those little guys there. That is that's Faveicon, and it's a standard thing. It's up in the air right now, but whether it actually improves anything, it's something that your website should have. Just a standard. I don't know why you wouldn't choose to have one, considering that it takes anybody literally 10 seconds to make it with the tool that I'm going to show you. But I guess, no, you should just simply create one, just in case. But I wouldn't really think it would greatly impact SEO in any way. It just doesn't make sense. It's such a small thing. So we need to make one. Your site doesn't have one. What do? Well, you go to faveicon.ca.cc. Oh, look. There's a flower. And here we go. And the beauty of this is you can just straight up upload a picture, or you can click on any of the tag cloud guys here. So we want something blue. Okay. And yeah. Go to flag. Why not? Here we go. So that's all it is. It's pretty simple overall. From there, it's just as easy as clicking download Faveicon and uploading it to the root directory of your web server and naming it faveicon.ico. Done. Faveicons should be 16 by 16 pixels. Simple. Okay, so that wraps up everything that you need to know about SEO that's on your page. Next up, we'll be moving to off-page SEO. But before we do, I want to show you a little bit about Webmaster Tools here, since this is so important for search. There are two different ones. I think there's three main ones that you could use. There's Google Webmaster Tools, Yahoo, and Bing. Google being by far the most important, and that's the one that we're going to focus on in the course, but you could also do this exact same thing. You get here by google.com/webmasters. If you don't have a Google account, you should make one, log yourself in, and then you get here. What you're going to do is you're going to add your website to it. It's going to ask you to do some simple validation things simple validation steps, just so Google knows that it's actually your website. Once you prove that it is, done, you'll get ranked in here and all this information is going to pop up. And the reason that you want to use Webmaster Tools is because, well, okay, it shows you all this nice search stuff. So we've got some crawlers on a website since when it was new and we were making it, we deleted some pages we didn't need. Okay, so that's why one's not found. Search queries. Okay, now we know what people are searching for. That's good. We know where links are coming from. And if this was an established website, we would see lists upon lists upon lists. There would be literally thousands of links coming in right here, and it would show us, well, not every link, but some of them, and certainly the more important ones. Our sitemap status, good, check mark. Things are coming in, Google can read it. And what are the most popular keywords on our site? Craigsman, okay, that's good, it is craigsman.com. Ice, we don't like that, it's a new website, we're gonna have to change that. Outdoors, rock climbing, good. Those ones need to be higher. So we can start to see all these metrics and results. But here's the beauty, you can configure so much on this website. So adding new sitemaps, how crawlers actually access your website. Robots.txt is a simple little, it specifies how search engines should crawl your website or request removal of URLs. So basically, if you have pages that you don't want people to come to, or sorry, if you have pages that you don't want indexed by Google, you would set up a robots.txt on that page and it would stop the crawler from indexing it. Pretty cool. Site links. Are you changing your address? Hey, look, there's the 301 directs. Fantastic. Settings for your website. Geographical target, we're going to talk about this a little bit later on when we get to more of the off-page stuff, but this is where you go to do it. Target users in America. Preferred domain. Remember when I was talking about canonical URLs? Don't set a preferred domain. No, we want to set default URLs as www.craigsman.com. That is the preferred one. Keeping things as nice and standard as possible. That's what it is on our website. That's what it is here. Fantastic. Let Google determine my crawl rate. Yeah, They automatically do a great job of it. No reason to change that. URL parameters, if you really want to change them. Search queries. What people are bringing, or how people are linking to your website. Bigger detailed list of keywords. Internal links on your website. Remember I mentioned that was important? You definitely want more and more of those. Not, again, don't keyword stuff your links. You just want to make sure that you have them. If you have subscribers, well, here's some information on them. Your +1 metrics. Is something wrong? Can Google not crawl your website? This is really, Webmaster Tools is, I hope I'm communicating to you just how good it is. There really is a plethora of important stuff that it really positively impacts your web page. Highly recommend that you use it. Let's focus on off-page SEO. Now that your site has perfect on-page SEO, why would we need off-page? And what is off-page anyway? Off-page, if the basis of SEO is, well, the basis of SEO is making sure you have keywords, but the other one is definitely links. And links are really just a popularity contest. So this near meaningless image that I pulled off Wikipedia here gives a good idea of what this popularity contest is. Look at B here. B here is tons of people pointing into them. Literally every web page on the planet except for A, but A is small. So when B points to C, this little guy here carries a lot of rank, and all of a sudden C, even though it has no one else pointing to him, it goes up. So it's not just a popularity contest in the democratic sense where it's the more people focus on you. That's how important those players are. Okay, that's the key. That's the key to PageRank. It's the key to how search engines do things now. On-page SEO is all about just having good standards. It's just about differentiating your web page from one that sucks, from one that Google or Bing or Yahoo wouldn't want to display in their search results. But the off-page SEO, this is the stuff that tells them what pages are actually important. You want to be B. And if you can't be B, then you definitely want to be C. The more people talking about you, the better. Getting one big player to talk about you, critical. So that's the key here. And that's what we're going to be focusing on. So links. There are 3 ways you can get links back to your website. 1, other people can talk about you. That's what you want. You want other people to be talking about you, to be linking to you. You can do this by networking with other bloggers if you have a blog. If you have an e-commerce store where you sell nerdy t-shirts, then you would link to sites, then you would want to get sites like Gizmodo to link to you. Those are the absolutely most powerful links. It's what turns your new website or your small website into a C. And because you have good on-page SEO with great keywords selected and well-researched, all of a sudden that traffic really starts to come in. The second best links are the ones you go around and post yourself. This is a manual strategy. It's not good to do a lot of it. You definitely don't want to, but you can do some, and it's good if you have a new website to get things started. It's how most people, like if an individual starts a website and they get going and you see a few years later a blogger who's been writing for about 3 or 4 years, now they're super successful and they got tons of search engines and tons of contacts. How did they do it? Generally, they went around and linked to themselves in the beginning. It's a pretty tried and true strategy. The worst links you can get, though, are ones where you pay someone to put them up for you. Google has an amazingly funny knack of catching on to this and penalizing your site for it. Because the thing is, when you index the entire web, you could also pretty much search the entire web yourself looking for people who go out to buy links. So if you use websites, or maybe even in your Gmail, I'm not certain, I don't know exactly what the privacy standards are, I haven't read the new ones, but it's entirely plausible that Google could look at you talking about buying links and then realize it, link it back to your website, and penalize you for it. I don't know if they do, they just can, and they have a funny knack of catching on to people who do it. So please do not buy links. There's always a good news story about this. Google penalizes overstock for search tactics. Google is penalizing overstock in its search results that's after the retailer ran afoul of Google's policies that prohibit companies from artificially boosting their ranking in the internet giant search engine. Hey, how did they do it? Well, they didn't pay for links, but they used an illegitimate strategy to get links back to them. Last year, so this came out February 24th, 2011. Also in 2011, one of the major banks, it was discovered that they had done tons and tons of paid links back to their website, and Google absolutely hammered them down. So, make sure you avoid doing that as much as you can. And by as much as you can, I mean at all. It's actually rather important that you don't. The idea is interactivity. Get people to talk about your website. Reach out to the neighbors in your niche. Point PR people to you. These are the ways to go. These are the ways you get the most important websites and the most important people talking about you. Really focus on that. If you have to go through and get your initial links, fine, okay. One of the ways you can do that is with directory submission. Directories are websites that specialize in linking to other websites and then categorizing those links. It is exactly like the Yellow Pages, but for the internet. Webmasters and marketers submit their sites to directories and in return receive links back. These directories also exist for RSS feeds. Blog Catalog, Yahoo, and Best of Web are 3 well-known directories. So we're going to look at Blog Catalog for a second here. So here we are, Blog Catalog. Bloggers come in, they bring their websites to it. As soon as that annoying thing goes, there we go. Tech and Internet. And here we go. Here's a fairly comprehensive list of all the blogs. There are 300 pages worth here, times about 10, 20. So 6,000-ish, if my math is correct here. Sites listed in technology and science. So A Man's World Online has come here. There's their link. We click on it. Here's a little bit of a preview. They're pulling some information from their website. Oh. Hey now. Hey now. And if this ever ends up working, we're going to get to a link to their webpage, and that's the whole idea here. Weird. When we're looking at directories, the biggest and most important directory is DMOZ, the Open Directory Project. It's ran completely by humans. There's no automatic approval to the website. It's human review, and their standards are strict. It takes a long time to get on the site, and not every site is approved. But it holds serious weight with search engines, so all sites should attempt to be placed on DMOZ. And this is the website. And if you can believe it or not, this Web 1.0 junky looking website is critically important. Categorizes things up. So we'll go into accounting, business to business accounting, and here's a list. All companies should attempt to get on DMOZ. It holds tremendous weight with the search engines. It's worth a try. So all you would do is suggest URL and submit it. And you absolutely can and should submit your own website. Do it though, like if it's a brand new website and it has no content, it's 100% guaranteed that you're not going to get approved. It's better to take a little bit of time, get some content, get established, and then go ahead and submit it. Article submission is another way that people generate traffic to the website. The whole idea of writing articles and submitting them to websites with a link or two back to your own. It's a popular way. The most popular article submission site is eZine. Now, of late, remember, Google doesn't want to give the marketer or the webmaster too much power. The whole idea behind search engines is the popularity contest, and it's important then that search engines are representative of what's actually popular. And the whole idea of people writing articles and then linking back to your brand new website, it's, let's be honest, fairly unlikely. So does article writing work? Absolutely it works. Is it a holy grail technique to getting your website to be like Site C, that giant picture from the one big one? No. It's all going to be rather small and incremental stuff. So keep that in mind. But you absolutely can do article submission techniques. And if you simply Google that, you can find an unlimited number of websites which allow you to submit articles. You can also submit press releases. It's great for PR, but also can be great for SEO because if your release is picked up by a digital news outlet, well, links back to your website may very well be in store for you. And a simple Google search again will bring up literally dozens of quality places to send your press release. You can pay for them. You can pay for some of these. It can be worth doing. Some of the free ones, well, let's just say that the New York Times really doesn't cater to the dozens of free ones that you can use. So if you're a company and you have the money to, or an individual who has the money to afford to send out your press release properly, perhaps you already have a publicist, then great. I would recommend that you use them. Ooh. We talked about blogging in on-page SEO. You can also blog on off-page SEO, where you would create your own blog and link back to your website as often as seemed appropriate. But here's the thing with the strategy. It's time-consuming, it can be expensive, and if it's a new blog with absolutely no weight, then it's going to do very little. If we go back a few slides to that picture, I want to show you this. Creating the new blog would be exactly like this guy right here, this little 1.6% guy. He's going to do literally nothing sending it over to, say, your normal site E here. It's just, the strategy is not that great. It takes a lot of time to create an established blog and to start generating links to it itself, unless that was something that you wanted to do because your strategy determined it was a good idea. I would probably opt to skip this strategy. What you could do instead is focus on guest posts. The thing with guest posts is you still get links back to your website, but all of a sudden you're getting them back from blogs that are more established. And that's the key. If you can get a guest post with a link to your website on a very popular blog, your blog is going to start doing well. It's like if you're the t-shirt company who gets linked to from Gizmodo. All of a sudden, your search results are going to start, your search traffic is going to start going through the roof. It's kind of like that good old business philosophy. Do you focus on the small incremental stuff or the big wins? Whenever you're doing something for the first time, generally you want to look at the big wins. The big wins are the ones that take you forward, that carry you rapidly ahead. And if you had the choice between doing 20 smaller techniques that are time consuming and tedious, they're not a lot of fun for anyone to do, whether it's you, the owner, or an employee of yours, or you certainly have more management and HR that you have to take into consideration if you are an established firm. But if you can just simply send out an email to a popular website or even a semi-popular website and get links back, like that nerdy t-shirt with Gizmodo example, then you're really winning. That's a big win. And for the time it takes you to send out one email versus the time it takes you to set up your own blog or blogs across the internet or write articles, one strategy it carries so much more weight. Now, if you strike out with one, then going to the other is good. And if you've done one and you want more, then going to the other one is good. Just make sure, if you're a big corporation, you don't want to be seen as paying for links. So if you're outsourcing all this stuff and creating all these different blogs and linking them back, or if you're doing something called a link wheel, which is basically you have your site, and then on the lower level you have a couple other sites, and then on the lower level you have a couple more websites, and they funnel towards each other. So the bottom level, it's like a pyramid. The bottom level goes up one, and then goes up one, and then goes up one, and then goes to finally your site at the end. And the whole idea behind that is that it mimics popularity, because all of a sudden it's not a whole bunch of small sites linking to yours. It's a couple big sites which have been linked to by slightly smaller sites, which have been linked to by slightly smaller sites, which is great, except that last year Google updated their algorithm and they started to catch on that and started to hammer that down. And that's the thing. Whenever you're doing strategies like this, hey, fantastic, you can control them. It is always best if other people are doing it for you. Guest posts is legitimate. Don't get me wrong, that one's great. But a lot of the other stuff that we're looking at here, press release submission, okay, that's definitely article submission. Again, it would be so much better if people were writing on their own blogs about you as opposed to you submitting articles. It's not to say that writing articles doesn't work, it's just saying that one is better than the other, as we discussed before. You can also comment on other people's blogs. It's a tried and true strategy. It generates a little bit of traffic back to your blog, and it generates a little bit of search juice. Now remember, we talked about anchor text before, and anchor text is important with your links back to your website always, whether they're on page or off page. Anchor text is, if you can remember, it's the actual words in the link. So going back to the Craigsman example, it's an outdoors oriented website. If I was filling out the name as part of a comment, you want to have your name, you kind of need to, but it would be better to have outdoors Justin. It's not perfect, but at least one of our keywords is there. It's something pointing back to our website that Google can look at and, yep, okay, I see that. For the outdoors, done. Just gets you a little bit more. Link exchanges used to be massively popular in the 90s, and they worked great because you shared traffic, and at the same time, you also got a little bit of search juice from it. However, they've largely fallen out of popularity as of 2012. They don't really work super effectively, unless, of course, you can get a popular website to link back to you. But the premise of it is you would email other sites in your niche requesting to share each other's links on your website. Worth the time if you can find the popular websites doing it. Otherwise, it's probably a strategy worth skipping if you're just going to be looking at other small sites linking to you. Of late, social links appear to be counting for more weight in search engine rankings, and this makes sense. People are sharing more, there's more +1, there's more likes. As people are doing this, all of a sudden, it is very difficult for companies to mimic 100,000 legitimate Facebook users liking and talking about them. So search engines are starting to display more weight towards social links. So with that in mind, it is absolutely worth the time to create social media presence and get people to talk about your brand. But we'll discuss that more later on. Forum posting is another thing that you can do. Now remember, ideally it would be best if people on forums were talking about you, but you can also create accounts and talk about yourself. As long as you do this in a non-spammy way, most people absolutely won't mind. You're going to want to select forums that are in your niche and are popular. The new forum with 2 users isn't going to do you any good. The forum that's well established, especially if it's coming from, if you can get a person with a rather large number of posts who has a lot of authority on that website, that would be just fantastic, getting them to link back to your website. Yahoo Answers is another site that you can use. And this is, I personally have tried using Yahoo Answers. It works kind of. You get a little bit of traffic back and a very, very little bit. And you do get some search benefits, but it seemed in my personal experience to be rather small. Yahoo Answers is, actually I'll just show you what Yahoo Answers is. That will take me about a second. If you're unfamiliar, this is Yahoo Answers. So basically, it allows you to ask questions or have experts answer them. You would want to answer them. So we browse open questions. Boom. What is the role of moral outrage in conservatism? It's a good question. And if you had a political blog, you could and say that you had an article on this. Well, very convenient. You would go ahead, you'd say hit answer question, answer the question, and then they would ask you for source, or you could put it in the actual text itself. You would say, I discussed this recently on my blog. Here's a link to more information. Done. Now, as with social media, as with any time you're ever interacting with people in this modern age, you want to make sure that you are always adding value. And when we get to the social media chapter, we're going to talk about this for a rather extended period of time. In old marketing, you used to talk to people. Now you talk with people. And when you're talking with people, you need to add value. It's just the key. So what is the role of moral outrage and conservatism? An inappropriate way to answer this question would be to, oh, check out my blog link. That's not going to do any good. Let's see if we can find a good one. Are peanuts good for you? That's not great. There's no link here, but here we go. They have legitimately added value to this person. Great. Now, if only they had a website and they could put a link there and get a little bit of search result and then a tad bit of traffic to it, that would be great. That's the idea behind Yahoo Answers. Just remember, always be adding value. Always, always, always. Do you remember before in Webmaster Tools, we looked at setting the search results, or you're setting your area to America by checking that. When you do that, it tells Google, hey, I only care about traffic from America, so please only send me traffic from this place. When you set this, typically your site will rank higher than it otherwise would for people in America. It's like a trade-off. You stop getting people from China to get people in America. It makes sense, especially if you're, say, a restaurant in San Francisco, California. You would want the search results to be as local as possible, because the search results do no good to people in Japan unless they're researching great sushi places when they come to America. But otherwise, it's not going to be good. And a search that specific, it would probably show up anyway. But what you'd want is you would want someone ideally in San Francisco to type sushi and have yours come up. So you would do that by setting your standards, setting your site to be as local as possible. You do this using Webmaster Tools, as we saw, and Google Business Center. Oh, come on. Oh, come on. Here we go. This is Google Business Center. And were you to log in on here, it helps you go even more local. Webmaster Tools gets you national level. This one gets you put into Google Maps. So if you're a bricks and mortar company, it's perfect. However, as you can see, if you don't have a store office, every business listing must have a mailing address. If you work from home or a mobile business, you can specify a service area in the sign-up process and choose to hide your physical address. Actually, that would be fantastic. For myself, as an example, I do consulting. I'm based out of Vancouver, Canada. For the marketing consulting that I do, were I to set this, having a website and everything all good to go, setting this would mean that people searching in Vancouver for marketing consultant, I would be higher up in the Google Maps if I were to display my office, my address, obviously, but certainly in the local listings. And you too can take advantage of this for your business. I would recommend that you do. It's just a simple thing. You would sign up, link your business in, and you'd be great. After all, it is free. Yep. Latent semantic indexing. Is actually incredibly complicated. It's a way of making differing words related to it, or determining how different words relate to each other. We're not going to really go into the specifics. We're just going to look at how it applies to SEO, which in fact is that it doesn't. A huge myth is that it can be harnessed. Not true. And there's this super, super incredibly intelligent people who sat down and wrote this tutorial at this link right here. We're not going to go there, but can't harness it. And so this is something that you want to pay attention to if you're ever hiring an SEO consultant, or if you're ever hiring, or if you're doing it yourself. You want to make sure that you do techniques that work. And latent semantic indexing is incredibly complicated. It really makes no sense at all to even try it. It's like a smoke and mirrors. It's a way of saying, yeah, I know what I'm talking about. Of course, search engine optimization. We've seen this course. It's actually not very complicated. Once you know the steps, that's it. But consultants will typically want to justify their fees in what they do, and this would potentially be a way. I'm not saying it would be. They might believe with themselves that would be the other option, in which case I would want to stress the importance of doing good research on your techniques before you try anything. After all, if you're trying to do latent semantic indexing and now you're writing your content in a way that doesn't grammatically make a lot of sense, but it's ideal from the semantic indexing perspective, well, we've already discussed how Google prefers your content to be easy for a human being to read. So, in fact, following LSI may very well get your site penalized, which would obviously not be great. Black hat. So as marketers, we are continuously faced with differing moral issues, I think. There's a right way and a wrong thing, and the law doesn't always help us out with that. There's starting to be a new dimension, though. Rather than just morality, when we look at sites like Google, Google is such a dominant player that they can kind of create their own rules. There's nothing illegal about using black hat techniques, but there is risk to using them. Because if Google catches you doing it, they will penalize your website. So black hat techniques include putting invisible text on your website, so writing a whole bunch of stuff, and then in CSS, putting it as visibility none or display hidden. I guess visibility none would be the more visibility hidden rather would be the more common choice used there. And now that you know how to do it, I would highly stress you don't. What people used to do is they would just write text, maybe just articles, and then put them on top of their homepage. So people couldn't see it, but crawlers could. And that, because crawlers see code, not the actual UI that people see. So not great, you get penalized. Cloaking, showing one page to crawlers and another to humans. Not smart. Doorway pages are pages built specifically for ranking but have no actual content of its own. Spam pages are worthless pages with keywords, and remember, buying links would be considered a black hat technique as well of late. You don't want to be doing it. It's just not smart. It doesn't make a lot of sense, and it can work. If you were to go to some of the more popular webmaster forums, you could find all kinds of stuff about black hat techniques, where it works. It's funny because when a new search engine update comes out, Google regularly updates its search engine. These same people tend to be the ones who complain about having their sites no longer rank anymore in Google. Basically, if you follow Google's rules, you'll be doing okay. If you harness, especially, and I can't stress this enough throughout the discuss of off-page SEO, you really want to get your company established in a way that people are talking about you. That you're not talking about yourself, and you're certainly not paying people to talk about you. Creating great content, adding value, these are the ways that you would want to do it, or that you would want to go about getting your off-page SEO. All of this kind of janky stuff here, I highly advise you to stay away from it. It can work in the short run, and then Google will find out, or they will update their search engine to whatever new black hat technique you're doing, and then you will lose your rank, and it just doesn't work out. And I told you that story about that major financial firm in America that did, or that got dropped down last year, and then we saw Overstock, the news article, drop down as well. It's just not worth doing black hat stuff. I highly recommend against it. So, penalties. I mentioned this before. Penalties, what happens when you break Google's rules or Bing's rules, they knock your search results down. I remember that whole bit about 82% of the traffic going to the top 3 search results in Google. Well, you can just imagine what happens if you go from the top 3 to page 10. You're going to get literally nothing. So black hat techniques, keyword stuffing, duplicating content already on the web is a big one. If you create a new, like if say you were that moving company that I was doing consulting for, they want to create a blog. They don't want to pay anyone to write articles for their blog or write them themselves. It costs money, it takes time. It would be easier to just go ahead and, well, we'll just copy it from someone else who's already written. Great. Except that Google knows when it indexed one, like the other blog that you're copying it from will be indexed, and then it'll see you having that exact same content. They don't like that. And paying for links has been mentioned several times. So here's kind of a cool feature, which is the Google Sandbox. Let's say that we create, actually Craigsman is a good example here because I've shown you that, and if you've taken a look at it, you've seen that doesn't have perfect SEO. The site's been done for a few weeks, but we haven't even really bothered to go through and make it perfect yet. Is there a reason? Yeah, it's the sandbox. Pages that are new with perfect SEO don't instantly rank at the top. And while Google has never discussed the sandbox, SEO consulting firms and researchers predicted that Google filters search results when websites are first created. And it's based on 2 things, or it seems to be based on 2 things. How competitive the keywords are. The more competitive they are, the more filtered it is. And how recently the site was indexed by Google. More recent equals more filtering. So Craigsman is ranking for, fairly competitive keywords. Outdoors, we're going to be doing snowboarding, will be a big part of the site. Rock climbing, not as competitive. Those more competitive keywords, more filtering. And the site was indexed not too terribly long ago. So again, more filtering. At this point in time, don't worry, we're going to get that SEO into top-notch condition, and it is already very close. We're just missing a few small things. But at this point in time, because we can't beat the sandbox, it's not really worth our bother because the site is new. Now, with that said, if we did have the time, if we weren't working on building other parts of the site, we would certainly go through and do it because SEO is critical. It's just saying that if at first you do everything perfect, you got a new website, and it just doesn't work, well, you're probably in the sandbox. And if you have an established website and you hire an SEO consultant where you go through, thanks to this course, and you do a whole bunch of stuff yourself, and you do it, and then you expect all of a sudden to jump up to the top 3 in Google, not going to happen. It takes time for the changes you make to come into effect. So keep that in mind. The sandbox filtering, we make changes when you have a new website. It takes a little bit of time. And finally, useful SEO tools. So we're going to go through some of these. We've already been through some of them, like the HTML validation, the validator. So obviously we won't go back there. We've looked at the Google keyword tool, which you get to through AdWords. There are 2 different kinds of SEO tools. There are ones that you can pay for, and they typically are a little bit better. And then there's all kinds of free ones. Like we used the free SEO tools before, SEOtoolset.com. And I mean, those free ones are absolutely fantastic. Can you get better? Yes, but for most people, they're going to be just fine. But let's go to this huge list here. If you're a designer, you will probably already know of Smashing Magazine. It's one of the greatest websites on the web. But here is a giant list of websites that you can use. And it's absolutely giant. Some of these you can pay for, some of them are free. Really, at the end of the day, well, it's up to you which ones you want to use. If you need to use a paid one, go for it. But otherwise, if you can get away with a free one like the free SEO tool set, go for it. So definitely take the time to go through this link. See what's here, see what's going to help you out. It can absolutely make a big difference. The other one we haven't covered is Google Insights for Search. Shazam. So here we go. And basically what it is, let's do a fun one. Cats. So here's our insights for cats worldwide. So we got an interest, declining. Okay. All the data from 2004 to present, check. The weight of where they're being searched. So cats popular in America, popular in Australia, popular in the UK, popular in Canada, not so popular in Mexico, not so popular elsewhere in the world. So why would you want to use this? Why would this be important to you? You can use it for market research. You can use it for better understanding your audience. You definitely don't want to make sure you want to make sure you don't have too much data, too much stuff going on. But at the end of the day, these things can be handy. Say you were a global firm and you were specializing in laptops. Okay, well, here's our search volume. Ghana. Hey, that's surprising. Ghana and India and Trinidad and Tobago. Okay, well, I've certainly just learned something here. So we're a global firm. We're a marketing manager at Lenovo, and we're looking at establishing our laptop line in new places. Okay, we get a directive from up top or from corporate. What are we going to do? All right. We come here, we see, well, here's something. Where are people interested in it? Ghana. No one saw that. Now we can start diving into doing a little bit more market research. Figure out exactly what's going on. Why is Ghana ranking so high? Do they have unmet demand, or what's happening? India? That would make sense to a lot of people. Maybe we should amp up our marketing efforts in India. Using insights for search can make a big difference. So it's highly recommended that you do use it. Now, with this in mind, we saw that giant list from Smashing Magazine, and that is nowhere near a comprehensive list of all the tools available on the web for you. There are countless amounts of metrics, countless amounts of information that you can gather. It is important that you do not just gather information for the sake of information. Information has to be useful for it to count for anything. So, with that in mind, make sure that whenever you do decide to use a new tool or pay for a new report, make sure it's going to be useful. The whole purpose of Chapter 2 of this course has been about getting SEO techniques that are effective, that actually work, and ideally won't necessarily take a lot of time. I've tried to stress the most important things, such as getting other people to talk about you, making sure that your on-page SEO is up to par, and you should have a fairly good background in all of it. So that'll conclude this part of the course. Thank you very much for your time, and well, I'll see you in Chapter 3.